Once upon a time, there was a little boy who lived in a neighborhood where there were lots of children. Every day he would rush to the window and look outside as they were playing. He would ask his mother, "Mom, can I go and play outside with my friends?" And she would say, "No, my boy, you're still too small. You can't go outside." Weeks, months, and later years went by, and still the same happened every day, until one day she went to him and said to him that he can go and play outside now. He looked her straight in the eyes and said to her, "Mother, I turned 18 today. I think I'm too old now." The moral of the story is, you're never too old or too young to play. I want to ask you today, when was the last time you played? When was the last time you created something in your hands, just to be in the moment with your creation, like a child? Up until the age of 4, children think the world revolves around them. Their worlds are small, but their imagination is massive. You put a crown on a little girl's head, and she's a princess. A cape around a boy, and he's Superman. No questions asked. When does it change? Why does it change? And how does it change? Our crowns are grabbed from our heads, and we see the world through the eyes of those who tell us we are not princesses. Our capes are ripped from our backs, and we realize that we are our own kryptonite, and that we do not possess any superpowers. I still remember the day that my crown was grabbed from my head. As a 4-year-old, I was brushing my long blonde hair in the mirror and telling myself how beautiful I am. As punishment for that, my hair was cut short like a little boy, and I was also dressed like one. I still remember the shame I felt in that moment, rejecting myself. This is what trauma does. It detaches us from our inner child. For some, it's gradually, but for others, it's instantly. Through the years, I made it extremely challenging for people to connect with me, as I was so disconnected from myself. I looked for the answers in wrong relationships and in books, and found myself traumatized, lost in my own story, where I played the victim. After one of these relationships failed, I cut my hair short and I colored it black, once again punishing myself for this failed relationship. I found myself in trauma, suddenly a single mother, and I had to look for my place in the sun, but not only for myself anymore, also for my little boy, who now depended on me. During that time, I attended a play therapy course. More specifically, Gestalt therapy. This is what play therapists use to help children going through trauma in difficult times. Whatever is in the forefront of their lives and their hearts will reflect through play. I remember creating a leaf from dough. The facilitator asked me a few questions, and I remember telling her, this leaf was kicked out of the tree she was attached to. But what this leaf doesn't know is that she is a magic leaf, and that one day she will become her own tree to provide shade to many others. I had an aha moment that day where I realized that adults can be empowered through play, that you can bring them into the moment. The more I tried to explain my theory to the people there, the more it was said, it's impossible. This is only meant for children. I have a stubborn streak, and I decided to open a non-profit organization where I will empower adults from all walks of life through these play therapy techniques. The results were astonishing. Play knows no boundaries. It knows no age limit. If you don't believe me, look at grandparents play with their grandchildren. For a moment, they are taken into each other's world with no judgment. All coping defenses are set aside, and they meet each other where they are. What an adventure. What an honor. I remember when our television broke when my son was little. I did not have the funds to buy a new one. I was devastated. But in hindsight, it was the best thing that could have happened to us. We played for hours. We sat with dough, we sang songs, and I truly believe up to today we have a very special bond because our foundation was set on play. Our love for museums was also created there. I did not have the funds to take him out, but that was affordable. And we could also create stories of the heroes who blazed the trail in front of us. Up to today, we still enjoy visiting museums, no matter which city or country we visit. If you look at movies like Will Smith's Pursuit to Happiness, he plays the role of a father who protected his son from the realities they were facing by creating a fantasy world for him. He played his way through poverty, and I truly believe the same applied to my life. I'm not saying there's not a reality. Of course there is. Working in the non-profit world for many years, amongst the poorest of poor, I've seen what reality is, and I've seen that there is dragons to conquer. But if you conquer these dragons and face this reality from a place of connection within yourself, I believe you do it so much different than from a place of disconnect. One of the techniques that I've used in the nonprofit world and still use today is the monster technique. You take 2 pages. In the 1 page, you draw your monster, your biggest challenge that you are facing at the moment. For me, it was public speaking. I was absolutely horrified to do it. I drew a big microphone with ears, long teeth, and a tail. Then on the other page, you draw the outcome. When you conquer this monster, I drew flowers like arrows, the whole page full. And up to today, that is still my hope, that every time I speak, my words will penetrate the hearts of those listening through inspiration and hope. You then tear up your monster and you keep your page of hope. The monsters of the people I worked with in the nonprofit world sometimes broke my heart, but I truly believe that massive shifts happen when you can identify your monster and you can also see how you conquer it. You cannot always be taken out of your circumstances, but you can be empowered in it. Play asks no questions. He doesn't ask you whether you're rich or poor. He doesn't ask you what language you speak, or even if you can read or write. Play reminds us that we are human, that we are born for connection with ourselves and with others. I sometimes joke and say that I was born with a pen in the hand. Ever since I can remember, I was writing stories and writing letters. The moments in my life where I didn't write was the moment where I got disconnected through trauma and rejected myself. We are all born with a gift, whether it's to write, whether it's to bake, whether it's to build businesses. And with that gift comes creativity. The same applies to my clients. I always tell them, if you tap into that zone of genius, that gift you were born to serve the world, there's an overflow and a contentment. The disconnect is what brings writer's block, frustration, as well as a loss for words when you sometimes need it most. Simon Sinek also talks about play in the workplace. One of his quotes, "The goal is not merely to work hard and to play hard. The goal is to make the two indistinguishable." And I could not agree with him more. Whatever is in the forefront of your heart will reflect on the outside. It could be through love, inspiration, or hope, or it could be through frustration, anger, and fear. Whatever is your driving force will reflect not only on your work, but also with your connection within yourself and with others. We were born to create. We were born to play. You do not work a violin, you play it. And I believe that's how we should approach our lives and our businesses, like playing the violin. Imagine a workplace where colleagues play together in harmony and form bond from there. Imagine families playing together, embracing each other in the moment. Imagine partners lifting each other up instead of tearing each other down, playing together. I want to ask you again, when was the last time you played? If you can't remember, maybe it's time that you go and look for your inner child. Forgive yourself for mistakes not knowing better. Embrace yourself, for you are brave. Love yourself, for you are worthy to be loved and more than enough. Play the violin of your life like never before. Pursue your dreams with your princess crown securely placed on your head and your superhero cape around you, for your story is your superpower. Do not sit at life's window, hoping to be invited to play outside. Get up! Open the door yourself. You do not need permission. Do it before it's too late. May you inspire others through embracing every chapter of your story. Learn from your lessons, but also be inspired in it through playing. Love others and yourself as if your life depends on it. This is your moment to eat, to play, to love.